The minute I start holding it, something just gets into your frame and it just becomes like a beautiful shot
The
out of the blue.
sunshine.
You know, how did you thought about them, but you didn't know they are also okay. You just hold it up, things just start happening, and then they call it God's timing. So sometimes it's like a spiritual thing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the First Column podcast. My name is Lesogora Teddy, but if you've seen me on the interwebs, you know me as Les Emang. Today, I'm not alone, right? I'm all the way in Santorini. I'm joined by the formidable Gonna Elvis Monga Khotla, a visual storyteller. If you've seen his portfolio, you know that it ranges from everything to your portraits, to your editorials, to videography. I was actually telling him just now that I've been following his work since I was in high school, and I remember thinking to myself, when I become a public figure and I decide I'm branding myself, this is the person that I'm going to do it with. So, hi, Gonna.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fabulous.
We
We
put
your bio.
I'm usually on the other side.
Right? I think it's always super fun when I get to interview the interviewer or shoot the videographer.
That's dope.
Before we dive into our conversation, what inspired today's outfit? I mean, the people can't see you from head to toe, but from what they can see, what inspired this today?
Imagination, I guess.
Imagination?
Yeah.
Just felt it.
It was inspired by imagination. I guess from the colors and the patterns and whatnot. I don't know. I just felt like today just try to look like what imagination could look like.
That is so beautiful. Yeah. Try to look like what imagination could look like. So today is a simple conversation. We just want to get a little peek into your life, right?
Let's keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Keep it cash. And I think I'm just super curious to know about the very first time you picked up a camera, right? Mm-hmm. For us to see you with this big portfolio, with all of this work that speaks for you in corporate and your personal capacity as well. Mm-hmm. How did we get here? When was that first moment of picking up that Sony or that Canon where you said, right, this is what I'm doing?
Hey, I picked up a camera. I guess I was still a baby by that time. I didn't know what it was. That's to answer the question of when I picked it up. I wouldn't remember the exact age, but yes. I was pretty young. But yeah, if one thing you can do is try to look at our family photos. Yeah. And just try to see who's not in the pictures. Because I was always the guy with the camera taking pictures of everybody else. Yeah. But yeah, I remember I was a kid. This is before like I even went to like preschool or anything like that. Right. Or around those times. I remember like, a guy came over, the whole family just like gathers around, and he's on the other side. We're just a group sitting the side, and you know people are just there, and I'm like, what's happening? A few weeks later, maybe a month later, I see myself on like a little printed out thing, like a paper. I'm like, what the heck? How did I get on there?
Who is this?
You know, so that's when it clicked. Oh, so this what that guy was doing. Yeah. You know, that's when I kind of like had an idea of what photography was. I remember also just growing up, standard 3, I used to like go over the advertiser and stuff, like, you know, these sale pages and stuff like that. Yeah, and I'll see a camera and I was like, tell my mom, Ish, can you please get me this thing? Yeah. I want this camera. Yeah, she always like, yeah, no, I'll get it for you.
Mama.
Yeah. And then eventually my aunt had a camera.
Yes.
I think by that time I was doing maybe standard 6. And for some weird reason, I just hogged onto it, made it mine.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Never let it go.
So whenever I saw it, I just, I'm the one who's holding it, taking pictures of everybody the whole day. Yeah. That's why you wouldn't find a single picture of me. So I guess it started there, and then the flame was always there. Yeah. But the first time I actually got myself a camera, I was in the first year at BAC. You know, first allowance type of thing.
Of course. That first allowance, I mean, you start to fulfill your
you
dreams.
know.
Listen,
Of
of course.
Yeah, but one thing I always understood when my mom said I'll eventually buy it for you.
Yes.
It didn't mean like it'll directly come from my pocket, but the fact that I push you through school.
Of course, the fact that I got you there,
Yeah.
I gave
Now
you
you're
the
getting
platform,
allowance, you know. Now you
right?
have
I
the
gave you
money
that
to actually,
support
you
as
know.
well, right? Because I'm
So-
just thinking about the fact that, I mean, to convince your family to caucus and all engage with the fact that you want to take pictures and videos of them, like it requires them to also be equally invested
Yeah, true.
in your passion as well.
True.
So I remember having this conversation with Geddy as well to say that you might not see it as this parallel thing, like what you're saying, but it's in that support
True.
that you realize that, oh, okay,
Kantoro ha di ntse di
they were
tsamaya.
there, right? So before we go all the way to university, what does high school gonna look like? Are you delving into different creative outlets, or are you just thinking, listen, let's make it to university? Because we've spoken quite extensively about trying to juggle Batsadi saying, hey, 48 points and, passion, right?
Yeah, true.
So what does high school you look like? What is he interested in? Yeah.
I think before high school actually, I don't know. I've always been like a very outgoing kid. I was very loud,
Yeah.
very naughty, very energetic
Yeah.
at the same time. So I don't know. From my like primary school days, that was always me. And then eventually I moved on, Gahola, and somehow it's like all of that was just like toning down. I never understood why and how, right? So I was just like sort of toning down. Also, I was a very smart kid.
Yeah.
For some weird reason, as I'm going forward, like everything just keeps going down. You know, I get but high school, that's when, I had to pick myself up, put myself together. I had to get back my confidence that I've always had.
Yeah.
Once again,
Yeah.
get back to my old self. Yeah, I guess that's where a lot of, the creativity that I feel like I have came from
Yes.
just like putting myself together back in high school, just before heading into the real world, I guess.
That is very interesting. I think I've had the inverse experience of being super structured in high school and
Is
then
it?
getting the freedom of university and being like "Kanto go iragalang," and then having to relearn that piecing of the self back together. But before we kind of get into the ups and
Yeah,
downs,
yeah,
nah, are you interviewing the interviewer?
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Ke reela gore, I would describe myself as having always been very stringent and like super strict. Okay, I'm gonna stick to the books. I'm gonna get my 48 points. And then I got to university and I was like, wait, I can volunteer, I can start a podcast, I can do this, I can do that. And then the avenues just opened.
Perfect.
And for me, it was a matter of, or rather, what I'm still doing is figuring out how to balance these interests, this passion, and trying to get that academic background and trying to juggle it all. So when I say the inverse, I mean I'm in the piecing stage.
So like
that
taking it
you
back
went
to your
through.
question, I guess gonna pressure our idea and stuff like that, expectations.
I guess so, but I think it's also just on my end an innate desire to want to succeed. Yeah, and less about them, to be honest with you, at this stage of my life, that is.
Yeah. Also, I remember coming into university.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a turmoil having to pick what course I had to
Oh,
do,
gosh.
but it wasn't that much of like weight on my shoulders, to
What
be
did you
honest,
choose?
because I guess a privilege last born. My sister always tells me this, but I
at
don't
my
I don't,
brother
I don't I don't
agreeing.
see it that way.
My brother's out of frame agreeing.
I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I just think I myself. Let me try this way.
Actually,
So
yeah.
I remember I had to pick. I wanted to study entrepreneurship. I wanted to study photography, and then the last one I wanted to do computer science.
Those are so different, by the way.
Yeah, and these were things that I felt like I was very good at that.
Yeah.
All my life as a kid, I was just into computers only. That's all that I knew.
So I have a question, rather on a personal note. How do you then juggle? One of my former mentors called it being a multi-potentialite, just having all of these interests, and thought that where you apply yourself, you will excel. But there's so many.
Yeah.
How did you juggle that? How did you say, Ish, I could do comp sci, I could become a photographer, I could,
Yeah.
how do we get to the narrowing down and what happens after that?
Hey, to be honest, it's a nightmare. One.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it, to be honest. Somehow I kind of found to fine tune all of that into like a bundle.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying, I was very good at computers, right? Obviously, as a photographer, you have to have computers you're working on, right? So I was always good with computers. So already I knew how to set up my stuff, the hard drive, the RAM, all of that stuff,
Yeah.
So that I kind of always had that intuitively, hella mohonna. And then the other thing was that I wanted to study business, right? So eventually I went and studied business instead of photography and instead of computer studies, right? So with business, what I learned was that I could actually start a photography company and turn it into a business. And then, somehow I found a way to get the love for computers, which I spend most of my time on almost every time. Got to fine tune the love of photography and infuse it with like running a photography business. So how did I do it? I have no idea, but it's just like eventually they were supposed to find a way to link up.
Alignment,
Yeah,
ne?
So but hey.
Of course, but I think you've answered it well.
Okay. Yeah.
What I'm also super curious to learn a bit more about is your creative approach. Would you say you rely on intuition? Would you say everything is planned down to the T? Because what we as your as your fans see is this super refined output. So what would you say goes into your creative process? And maybe you could break it down depending on the kind of shoot, maybe.
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Hey, creativity is such a crazy person's field, right? Because you never know where it comes from. But I would like to think like photographers or creatives are spiritual people somehow. There's a thing in photography you call God's timing. I think photographers and videographers will call it God's timing.
Okay.
So I can pick up a camera right now. Let's say I'm in the street and for some weird reason I just want to focus my camera there, right? The minute I start holding it, something just gets into your frame and it just becomes like a beautiful shot out of the blue.
Sunshine.
How did you thought about them, but you didn't know you just hold it up, things just start happening, and then they call it God's timing. So sometimes it's like a spiritual thing. I don't even know. I would get a client about like a creative shoot, and it's up to me to conceptualize the idea, right? It's not like it's gonna be something that I just pen it down right there and there, right? Sometimes I can. No, okay. I look at the type of shoot you want to do. I go over your Instagram. I just try to analyze you and see what are you comfortable with. And then maybe sometimes I can just come up with the idea right there. But sometimes it can take me a whole month just to figure out what to creatively do, right? So it's not like you never know. It's like waves most of the time, right? You just have to learn how to bask into like patience and just like wait for it. But creatively directing, with portrait shoots, I'd say it's better I creatively direct than the client coming to me with a concept, because most of the time they have a concept and it looks nice, it looks dope, they want to do it, but they don't know it's gonna take a lot to actually bring it
execute.
And it happens most of the time. I get it gonna do the manager like a budget, so it's just like within your budget
what
I can actually
achieve?
Execute and express myself in this way to give you like creative output. But with some of the work that I do with street photography, I just normally just go outside. It's like And I know I do it mostly when it's like cloudy, because that's like my favorite weather. That's when I feel inspired to just grab a camera. Nobody's paying me, nobody's telling me to go do anything. I run the guideline as to what to shoot and what not. And then I just go out there and I just find inspiration in just like the normal lives of people out there. Sometimes it just looks beautiful. I want to capture that whole transaction.
Yeah.
Somebody else is out there getting into a combi. I remember letting out one time when I was, taking combis, and it's like it comes from within, but as well you're being fed by what's outside as well. So it's like you're finding a balance as to who you are, which is represented by the picture you take, and as well as who the other person is that you totally have no idea who they are, but you just have to find a way to capture their life story.
You touched a little bit on it being akin to a calling. What does spirituality look like for you at this stage in your life, if you're comfortable with sharing? What does it mean to you? What does it look like?
I'm also curious as to how you came up with that question. So maybe let me let you answer that first.
No, I'm thinking about the fact that you said that for many creative people, it's as though it's deeply rooted, it's as though it's a calling, it's as though it's spiritual. And so I'm kind of trying to piece it together in my mind to say, okay, well, what then does your personal philosophy look like with respect to what you believe in, or what keeps you grounded, rather? It doesn't have to be religion, more so what keeps you grounded and what keeps you inspired.
So for me, I don't believe I'm a religious person.
Okay.
But I think I'm a spiritual person, because I'm not a church goer. A lady is always trying to get me to go to church. I think the last time I was in church was, first time I was in standard 3, second time was probably 2 years back.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not really much of a church goer. I do believe in the higher power. Sometimes I have like a voice within myself that I speak to, that I believe knows what's good and what's bad. But I think one thing that people get confused about religion and like spirituality, most religious people always think like if you're not religious, then you're a bad person.
It's not that.
As long as you know the difference between right and wrong, and that's what I live by. But I would say, I don't know. I've asked myself the question of like, why are we here? Like, what's this? What's life? And all of that.
Yeah.
But I had to boil it down to just learning to believe in myself and the people who came before you. You know.
That's true.
I don't know how deep I can get into that spirituality unless you have another question there to ask. But
I think that's fairly clear. And if it brings you any solace, I often say that I am a believer. I'm just trying to find my footing in what I believe in. So I agree with you in as far as ensuring that you're aware of the concept of right and wrong. You are trying your best to be a good person and trying your best to contribute to society in the most meaningful way possible. But over and beyond that, you spoke about identity. And I think I'd like to kind of pivot to the work that you've displayed over at the Hilton Garden Inn. All right. What do we have going on there? Hopefully, I'll be able to pop in some images for our listeners and viewers to see, those that are on YouTube. What inspired that work that's been displayed? What story is it telling with respect to our culture and cultural identity? Just take us through that where you can.
Yeah, like you're saying, I had some of my artwork on display at Hilton Garden, and I think by that time it was an African month theme type of thing, right? I didn't exactly curate the stuff. My assistant by that time was the one who put it together, Boto. She's the one who created the exhibition. So I wouldn't say there was a specific theme to it. It's just, it was pieces that I had shot over time that I was very happy with, and I knew that they had never been, in that much of a spotlight, right? So it wasn't like it's work that I had, to sit down and conceptualize and like put together into an exhibition. It was just like pieces of work that I had done previously from back in the days that I felt like they would actually look beautiful on print, and having them on display. And I was always like with my artwork, I'm always curious to see what the next person is gonna see and think of it, rather than what I thought of it when I captured it. Like when they're saying a picture is worth 1,000 words, it actually is. I can just display a simple picture to you, but it doesn't mean the meaning that I have for the picture, or the reason why I captured the picture is not going to be as obvious to you. You might have a different perspective of what it could mean or what it is. So that's one thing that I usually enjoy. I think around that time, I didn't, like, most of the people who go to Hilton Hotel didn't know who the photographer is. You. So I just always go there and just watch people like looking at my pictures, and I'll just always just ask them questions here and like, oh, so what do you think about this picture? Just trying to get that perspective.
That's very cheeky of you, by the way.
Cool, undercover boss type.
Exactly, I was about to say when.
So it was always just like nice just to hear them just tell that story, like whatever they're seeing from their point of view, and how their mind is interpreting the whole picture and the setup. So it was beautiful. And now myself, I would also just be like, oh, wow.
I didn't look at it that way.
I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful that it can spark something else in your brain. Something that I saw and decided to capture can make you think this way and that way. Like, it's always inspiring. Yeah.
Of course. So you mentioned having insights that are spanning across 9-10 years, right? That is tenure. And I guess as a budding creative, I'm really curious to know what you wish you knew when you just started out in this space, right? Firstly. Then secondarily, I think it would be interesting if we could explore when Khonna jumps between being an artist and being a service provider and what that looks like. Because I think our downfall in this space is trying to maintain your professional and creative integrity at the same time, while ensuring...
What a good question.
Yeah. While ensuring that you are rightfully compensated for the work that you're doing, because it takes effort, it takes time, and it's not a joke.
Hey,
no, I'm venting now because what's happening? Okay, let's put it down into one line. The balance between being an artist and being a service provider. What does it look like?
Alright, so the first question about what I wish I knew.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. I like how they're basically mirroring each other's. So I feel like what I wish I knew was the fact that what I knew was right. Because when I started, I was always avoiding working with corporates for some weird reason, because I just wanted to be creative and just shoot what I liked, So I had that feeling when I started, and I was just like staying away from corporates. I didn't make portfolios and say, guys, can you hire me to shoot this and this and this for you guys? But I was just always just doing my creative shoots every day, and it was more of like collaborations. I wasn't asking models to pay me, but the ones who were paying me for my creativity, I appreciated. But mostly I would just go out there in the streets back in the days when I was shooting with Mateo, when we started the photographers. So it was just almost just like every day find a way to utilize your creativity, find creativity somewhere. We're always just searching for creativity. We'll get to a set, on the ground, we incorporate it into the shoot. Somebody else just looks at it like, how did these guys think of this? That's when it was most enjoyable to explore creativity. And then the whole reason why I was also staying away from corporates is because I knew corporates is very structured, it's very monotonous, it's very pattern based, it's very simple, it's very, we're not trying to take a risk and explore anything different. They're very like this. So I was always trying to avoid that world, but eventually they found me. Then I got into that space. mainly because like what we were talking about before the podcast, there's the monetizations for creatives. Eventually you're gonna need to put some cash flow in there,
Yeah.
to survive. So I think that was one of the reasons why I did that. But if I was to wish for one thing, I knew it was to wish that I trusted in what I thought at first what was right.
Yes.
That once you get into the other side, your creativity really just drains out and it dies out.
Yeah.
Because you just keep doing repetitive work, and the fact that you're getting paid for that also just puts your mind into now you're getting into the rat race.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So then how do you continue to cultivate your own creativity amidst all of this? Is it that you've got your corporates and you're refining their work, great, output is perfect, then you've got Khonna's portfolio, Khonna's work.
Yeah.
And
Hey, working with corporates really, it really just puts your mind into a different space where it's like imagination really just dies, you know. You understand the product that they want. You've done it so many times.
Yeah.
And now you have to just keep replicating that.
Pumping it out.
You know, there's a song by Black that I really like where he's talking at the end. He's like, just because I made a hit song, people want me to make that type of song or sound this specific way, you know. And instead of like becoming an artist, I become a song.
Yeah.
Now you guys know me for that one song, and you want me to keep replicating that song. So instead of an artist, I become a song. So that song always just stays with me, and switching between Khona, the creative, and the guy in the corporate space. At this point, it has become so easy, but it's hard to switch back to Khona because the one commodity that we're selling as photographers is time, right?
Yeah.
So the highest bidder at the moment would be your corporates. So it's like you're selling most of your time to them rather than yourself buying it for yourself.
Yes.
So I kind of business has got to develop to a point where now it's no longer I'm just getting a call and I have to run. I'm getting a call and I have to run and shoot. It has been structured to a point where now I can afford myself time to become khonna when I can. But it's not like, it's at a level where I want it to be.
And that takes time to build.
Yeah.
I also think this is a call to action to corporates to say, let your creatives be creative.
True.
The inception of my career has been in agency work, and it was my first time seeing creativity being structured. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And so I share with you in that, in saying that I think it's important for a little bit of leeway, right? Or at the very least, like you're saying, for that commodity of time to be afforded to you to allow for that balance between the two. You mentioned a name, you said Motel. There's Photographersbw.
Yeah,
Who are these people? You guys don't want to be in front of the camera. Demystify this. How do you band together? Is this more than one person? Le 3, le 4? What's happening? Right?
So Motel was my partner that we started the Photographers.
Yes.
So by that time, we're just two best friends who are into photography.
Oh.
And then we just explored the world of photography together. So what happened was, Mateo would borrow a camera from school because that's an Agolimko. Nah, I didn't have a camera by that time. I'm at BAC. So then we just had to find time after school to just play around with the camera, learn how to use it, and then eventually we started getting good photos, started posting them on social media. People started following the content, and then that's just how the Photographers became. But Mateo, we parted ways back in 2018, so I've just been running the company by myself. But at the photographers currently right now, it's just a team of 3 people. We have we have a videographer, an editor, and then myself at the moment.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So something that I thought to be super interesting when I was having my conversation with Mboko was her approach to collaboration. What does collaboration look like for you? How do you decide that, yeah, let's work? Because she spoke about how she's gonna get someone that's already a glotto kid before, she makes them a glotto kid. They're repping her brand, or they're a representation of the brand in one way, shape, or form before she even calls them. And I thought that was interesting in as far as alignment is concerned, because some people might look at numbers and say, numbers only. That's the only metric I'm looking at when I think about collaboration or some sort of value exchange. What does it look like from the perspective of someone in photography and videography? What informs those collaborations? Is it energy? Is it saying, YZ, I can deal with this person for 3 hours, so we'll work? Is it looking at their existing portfolio and saying, I think I want to replicate that and expand on it? What does that look like for you?
Well, for me, I don't normally do a lot of collaborations. But like you're saying, for me, it's mainly based on energy. That's if I know the person, right? It's mainly based off of energy. But if I didn't know the person, then it has to depend on a lot of things. And for me, collaborations, it's not like it's only based off of photography or videography, right? So it could be basically any form of creativity. So one thing that I've always done is my mind has never just been, it's never been just infused into photography only. There's also music where you can collaborate with other players in there. There's fashion as well. But it doesn't mean that for me collaboration is like, okay, I'm gonna be having the camera and snapping you. It could just be collaboration on the fact that you're a musical artist. I can collaborate with you just to start a company, maybe to push a clothing brand per se, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's just mainly based off of energy for me at first. But let's say for a model, for me to collaborate with a model, she just has to strike me in such a way that it feels different from most of the work that I've done. It has to just feel like something different, something new, based off of her profile. And the thing with models in Botswana, just to say,
Cling, cling.
I don't understand why you guys always lock your profiles. It doesn't make sense. How are people supposed to see
The
work?
girlies are shy.
You guys lock your profiles, and that's very, very, very bad. How somebody has literally 5 seconds to just look at your profile and say, okay, cool.
Now you've got a request.
Now I have to request you, and then I'll respond after
2 weeks.
2 weeks because maybe you think Khonna is there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just unlock your profiles.
You know what I learned before we hop into our ad break? I had a boss that told me, if you're going to do it, be loud about it, be proud about it. If you're a model, you're a model.
Yeah.
If you're a podcaster, you're a podcaster. People must know. All right? There's no way you can get half and half. That's not how visibility works. We've had some banter here with the team, and they were super curious to know about what it takes to refine that businessman or business person in you while being in the creative space, to say, I want to be able to sustain my home, my family, the rest of my dreams. What does it take to say, all right, this is a company, this is a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm curious about.
Well, I'll just break it down this way, right? This the advice that I always have to pass out to other photographers out there, or just these little quick 10-minute meetings you have with people when you bump into them, and then they usually ask me a similar question. So the thing that I always tell photographers is, try to reinvest into your business, right? That's like the most important part, especially when you're starting. You start with one camera, you're gonna be making money, seeing clients there and there, the best thing is to just try to reinvest into the business, right? You stack up the money on the side, keep, buying better equipment, grow the business, get ready for by the time now where you have to now have people working for you. I remember I would be buying laptops. I didn't even know why I needed to have laptops. Eventually, the laptop went to my assistant. By the time when I hired one, I had the screeny, the computers to the editing. I was just buying them. So by the time when I hired people, there was already equipment for people to actually be working with. But yeah, the most important part is to reinvest into the business, because if you don't, then it's never going to grow. It's never going to get better. It's never going to feed you and the people around you. Because once you look at it, photography is actually a business. It's actually a business. People are making a living out of it. I remember even other photographers that I met when they were starting. Right now, they were able enough to, get a home, buy cars, they're living comfortably, I would say. And that's always like they're reinvesting. I always just check in with everybody at the same time. Or are you putting back the money into the business? Are you getting better equipment? Are you planning to hire people at some point? Because you can't be doing everything else by yourself,
True.
Eventually you're gonna need somebody to do the thinking for you. Eventually you're gonna need somebody to do the editing for you. Eventually you're gonna need somebody to do the shooting for you. So reinvesting into the business doesn't just also mean buying equipment. It also means having good cash flow that can sustain you when you hire people, when you have bills to pay like rent, the softwares that we're renting out every month. So you need to be able to handle those bills. Yeah.
That's perfectly clear. And so let's say I'm Les, right? I want to start my business. I don't even know what equipment to get. When you talk about your absolute must-haves, right? Things that you love, the equipment that you love, what would you recommend for someone that wants to get out there, get into the market with super refined work and make an impact? Yeah.
Hey, that one is complicated, because it's like
it's part equipment, part
photography is really just art. So I can't say if you're gonna want to start a business. Okay, maybe for somebody with a big budget who doesn't want to be a photographer themselves but wants to run a photography company, I would say, okay, how long do you have a budget? Start here, start there, find these type of people and let them run the business themselves. But if you yourself want to be a photographer, I wouldn't say a camera at 30,000 today. Start with something that you can find around. Start with a camera. The first thing to do as a photographer is to develop the eye for photography. Learn it, learn all the aspects, learn every single, avenue of photography. Learn the colors, learn how to work with, if you're going to be shooting people, learn how to work with people, understand people. If you're going to be working with nature, understand nature. Learn how lighting moves, how lighting works, all of that stuff. Learn your camera itself. Most people, they get too infatuated with gear, with cameras, with like having a better camera. You can basically start with, I remember there was a conversation we once had when I was still working with Mattel. We bumped into local corner by the time when we were both when we were all just starting out, right? So Laurel said something funny to me. He's like, so he's meeting us for the first time. He's like, matagaga, what should 5D? And by that time we're just using a 1200D. For the photographers, you understand what I'm talking about. So we're just using 1200Ds, and these guys are telling us we're using the 5D, and it was just like mind-boggling. For the same camera we're always just like watching on YouTube, and it's like 35,000. We don't even have 35,000. This guy thinks we're shooting with it, and we're just using a 5,000 camera. So camera at some point doesn't really matter. When I just learn the art, learn the eye, just keep creating. And then there's a favorite quote of mine, well, not mine, but there's a favorite quote that I like. It says something like, you're not a good photographer. Or you're not even good, not even perfect, not even like the best. You're not a good photographer until you've captured more than 10,000 photos.
Jeez.
So that
Would you say you've surpassed that by now?
10,000 is like 2 months of work.
What?
10,000 photos is like 2 months of work.
What are you saying to me?
It's
is
been
that what you're saying to
way
me?
more than 1 million photos by now. Way more than a
Guys.
million photos.
Listen,
I mean,
guys, storage never.
Hey, you shoot one weddings, you leave there with about 3,000 photos
Excuse me.
already from one
And you're
event.
sitting down and you're refining that and you're sending it
Imagine.
back to Bolisoro who want their output in a week.
Imagine.
Oh
So
my gosh, yeah.
10,000 photos. When you start, it sounds like a big number.
Yeah.
But once you go across that, you start to understand about, okay, now photography sort of becomes like a little pattern. Like if you're taking pictures of people, you already there's like a science to photography that
Yes.
it's very hard for us to explain. I don't even know if people get enough platforms to explain it.
Okay.
If I was sitting here with
share.
you and I was trying to take a picture of you, I have to literally within 3 seconds when I put my camera to my eye, I have to see when you're gonna blink. I have to know how you blink, what time you're gonna blink, when
Yeah.
to expect you to blink, how you smile, like switching between smiling and not smiling. I have to already know that.
Yeah.
And I have to already just from your body posture, I have to tell what are you mostly comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I have to already pick up a good side from you that I'm not gonna tell you, but I have to already know how to
Intuit.
get one picture that's gonna impress you right away. So it's like there's science to that. Not even accounting for things like lighting and all of that stuff.
Imagine.
You know, but there's science to that. I don't even know where this question dragged from, but I'm glad that it brought us here.
Of course. When it comes to managing relationships, managing your clientele, what approach would you say you take? Because in the 30 minutes that we've been here, it feels like I'm talking to my brother. It feels like I'm talking to
Nice.
my production. It feels like I'm talking to family.
Mm-hmm.
So what philosophy do you have on your relationship management, on your client management, that you feel we could draw from, just from a business perspective? Do you build friendships or do you build clientele?
Clientele,
Erra.
because the clients as well were coming as people who just saw me from outside, right?
Erra.
So I had done some work for Cigar Lounge for about 3-4 years.
Wow.
So I was just meeting and bumping into a lot of people who eventually became my clients, right?
Yeah.
Because these were people who work in the corporate spaces and stuff like that. So by that time, it was just basically just building clientele. It wasn't friends. It was just people who knew me, and I just had to do work for them, right? So it was just like I just knew them as clients. But as I started to grow and started to learn, I got to understand something important about relationships. So it's with the people that I work with now, it's mainly like they're my friends.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just I just have to touch base with some among here and there, touch base with this person because we've connected while I was working with them. You know, and as a photographer as well, the one thing to always learn is to show yourself, like your personality as a photographer.
Yes.
To your clients. Don't just come there and sit behind the camera and just take pictures.
Yeah.
So for me, I just make my clients very comfortable. It's always just like a beautiful space to be within, you know. I can already tell if you have insecurities. I can always calm you down and, you know, tell you to pose this way, suggest poses for you, just make you feel comfortable. And then eventually it builds into a friendship of some sort, either in like I'm shooting your baby shower, or I'm shooting your graduation, or I'm shooting you guys as a whole, as a company there.
Yes.
You know, eventually I leave knowing this person and that person, and now we have like a friendship relationship going on. And for photographers out there, I think that's very important because there are moments where I'm just texting this one client that I've shot maybe 5 months ago, but we've been keeping in touch, and all of a sudden hella just because we tell our so you're already booked for something.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how it just happens with that. Just keeping people close and keeping friendships as well as just doing business. You're supposed to enjoy it at the end of the day.
That's true. Right? I think you've spoken really beautifully about your creativity, about the synergy between business and creativity, what you want out of that. But I can't help but look at your tattoo, right?
Which one?
Following that one. Following the loss of our icon, ATI, you spoke extensively about the relationship and the bond that you had. I remember there was a reel I saw on Facebook, and it was kind of glimpses of all of the work that you did. And I think without restraining you too much, I'd love for you to speak about that friendship, to speak about that collaboration that you had between the two of you?
Um, yeah, so I met ATI while I was in junior school, right? I was just coming from school with a couple of my friends. So we're just walking down Muji West there. And then I'm passing this Kai Blaster music or ATI. And I only know this song because it had just came out. So I'm just like, I'm pretty sure this could be him, right? So we just keep walking. I see him coming out. I'm like, yo, guys, I'm going to go say hi to ATI. And they're like, for what? That's like, they're not getting it, but
How
I'm
about
just like, what the hell? I'm gonna go say hi. So that they just keep walking cats. I'm like, now get like, oh, ATI.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, Mr. ATI, oh, I love your new song, dude. Can we take a picture? So we take a picture, and then he's like, nah, but I'll say, because that they were taking with the iPad with the manager's iPad. So it's like, nah, I'll send you the picture, bro. I'm like, how? But like, I'm sure you take pictures with so many people. How are you gonna send me the picture? And then eventually, I posted on Facebook. Then they found me and sent it to me. And then I guess from there we just sort of like became friends. From there, friendship became a business relationship where at some point I was managing him. By the time when Kirin Kirin Korong came out, I was the one who was handling all the gigs and the traveling and all of that stuff, the music side. But I was mostly usually passionate about the music more than anything else. The sound is like every time I had to always make sure that he's working on to like a body of work, like an album, something concrete. Yeah. So that's by the time when he was dropping Envelope, when we started working together. And then yeah, it's just always been that, from just a fan to friends to
Working
business
together.
partners.
Yeah.
And then it just became like a brotherhood from there.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you've actually managed talent before. What did that look like? What did it look like working with him? What are your favorite memories from that period of time?
One thing I really loved about ATI was that he was such a businessman. Like,
Yeah.
he was always business minded. I remember even just like watching all his moves as he was starting up.
Okay.
You could tell he's different from almost every other artist because he was so business focused. Even in his music, you could even hear that this he means business. He thought creatively. Like, by the time when Flavor Dome was getting all the fire,
Yeah.
all the clout, all the like. It's because he was just bringing some different touch.
There.
And ever since then, I've always just like admired that. Even in the way I work, I've always tried to replicate a bit of ATI into my work as a photographer.
Okay.
I remember there was a time I was telling him, he told me, I think I was doing maybe Form 3. So he's touring around, he's driving around doing shows and stuff like that. He just came from Maung, he's telling me he has another show right now, he's going to Palape. And then I just finished talking to him, he just moved from Palape, he's already coming back to Gaborone for another show.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, this guy is touring and like moving around like this. And then it got to a point where also in my career, years later, I'm shooting so many weddings now. I'm in like you go France town, so I tell him, I'm like, even me, I'm actually touring, bro. Like, I remember back when I was a kid and I was just like watching you tour. I'm like, I'm touring just as a photographer, so it was just crazy. So yeah, he was always proud of where I came, and I've always been happy at the fact that when I started, he was actually the first person to actually put me out there into the mainstream.
Yeah.
There was a photo shoot that we did. I was directing it, but it was me on camera actually this one time. And I think he really liked the concept because I think some parts of it was almost inspired by the ATI by that time.
Yes.
That he actually reposted it onto his Facebook and was telling people, yo,
Look
follow
at
this guy,
this.
he's very good at directing photo shoots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I've been taking pictures for like a month now. I'm baffled as to like how this guy could be seeing me like this,
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always just tried to make him proud as well.
Of course.
Just to live up to whatever vision or whatever he saw from me. So
Of course.
Yeah. Inspirational just being around him.
Then we've spoken a little bit about his legacy and your relationship, and we come to to his passing. And
Yeah.
as an onlook, as a fan of the both of you, I guess I would want to hear from you a little bit on what you would have wanted, what your reflections were during that time, following all of the social media outcry, following all of the tweets, all of the Facebook posts, all of those antics. What were you thinking as someone that experienced a person that we look up to as an icon on a personal level? What is Gonna thinking? Not the photographers, not the brand, but the person.
I was hey, it's been a tough time because like I was just watching people commenting and making posts about him.
Yeah.
And one thing I was happy about, I was just like, I wish you can see how people actually did love him so much.
Celebrated.
Yeah, like there were tough times where he's going through some stuff. He'd put himself in a cocoon in a corner there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he would even get to a point where like he would get even tired of just being outside, of being around people.
Yes.
Like I remember he would spend most of his time in his car, like every day, like he's just driving around. The only places he would go to is like go to the studio and just to record.
Yeah.
And you could tell what he feels disconnected from Batubami, you know, and just seeing him passing and like Batubami actually like,
I recognize.
and I was just like, I wish he was here to see that, you know. I wish he was here to see that. It would have uplifted him a lot more than what people could imagine would have done for him, you know. Yeah, with the struggles, that's something that I understand. I've known for some time. But I really just wish that he could have saw that, you know.
As a nation that we loved him, as a nation that we do continue to love and appreciate his work.
Yeah, I wish he could have saw that.
Yeah. In your opinion, having been around people that continue to lead us in these creative spaces, what do you think causes that disconnect? Right? What do you think? Why do you think our mental health issues are so prevalent? And having observed this all, which direction do you wish we could be moving in?
I think the mental issues the creative industry, I would say, they stem from a few roots, but if there was one that I would speak about, it would be Kanyagor. It feels like there's a ceiling to creativity in Botswana, or there's a ceiling as to what creatives can actually achieve, or the height of where they can take their career. It always feels like there's a ceiling, right?
Yes.
So when you reach that point where now it's like, then what next from here? That's where most of people just fall into depression and think, you know, nothing is working out. Everybody, all the best people in Botswana, creatively, they've been to a point where they feel stuck because they feel like they've expressed themselves, they've put everything on the table, they've painted themselves out, they've exhausted their creativity to a point where it should have actually brought something.
That's true.
You know, I mean, watch how many people were saying they consume ATI's music, but like when you get on Spotify, you find his biggest song was like on 30,000 listens, and check how many people were just going crazy over that, you know. But even himself, he said it on songs before. He gave me hair like it's really, you know. It's like you'd get to that point where it's like I've literally just given you guys everything that I can present to you guys as an artist.
Yes.
But they always feels like there's a ceiling in Botswana. But once Botswana learns how to structure those the creatives, I think that's where, you know, things will start to open up for a lot of people. Once people start getting paid for what they deserve, then, once corporate starts taking these people seriously, that's when things will start happening for other people out there. Because it's almost like all the graduates right now, I would assume that just bound to get into the same type of field because unemployment is too high right now.
It is.
And yet every year we're pumping out new graduates. They're gonna get to that point too where it's just like it doesn't make sense why I had to do all the school for all these years just to come and sit here for 5-10 years. Yeah, so even for us creatives, it's like, okay, sharp, most of us didn't finish school or whatever. Most of other creatives didn't go to school, but
the work is there, the
the
output
work
is there.
the output is there. You've just done it, so to a point where now,
Yeah, that's clear. I think I'd like to, before we jump to Gonna and his future ambitions, maybe pan over.
Hey, you've lowered your tone now, eh?
To Haitian, like already, it's a shame. Yeah, before we jump to future you, your mentor.
It was ATI.
Oh.
I mean, the hats and stuff. I started changing the way I dress up. I started dressing all formal and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember I was shooting for Bank Gaborone. They saw me coming with like these pens. The MD actually stood up. It was like an award ceremony. She actually stood up from my table, went up on stage, and requested that from now on let's only play ATI for that guy over there. And then she went back to her seat. So it's
That's proper.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think we've had this beautifully engaging conversation, and I love to round up the conversations that I have with my guests in a optimistic and future focused manner, to say, what would you want to see for future Gonna? What would you want to see yourself doing in the next 5, 10, 15? What are you excited for? What projects can we look out for? How best can we support you? Where can we find you? Because in all of these things that have informed us, the stories that inform the people that we are, there's so many more chapters that are yet to come, right? So yeah.
Hey, the way you string your questions sometimes.
Many.
Like
Future you.
Like I would hear the question, right? And then I heard it, and then I started imagining the answer. And then the other question comes. So then I try to structure that answer.
There's 3 questions in
and
one
then by the time
question.
you string the 4th one,
Oh,
I'm like, whoa, wait.
Oh, shame.
How am I going to get to that one?
Give us a glimpse into what's happening now, what's happening soon, and what do you want to happen later.
What's happening now is that I'm trying to enjoy peace of mind.
Of course.
I'm trying to center myself and, learn how to appreciate self-love as much as you give it. Because you can give yourself love, but not appreciate it at the same time. So I'm trying to do that. I'm also just trying to relearn photography like back in the days when I've started. It's always important just to always be this. So that's me right now. I actually moved out of the city just to find peace and quiet somewhere out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think everything just started to feel congested around here to a point where I just needed my own space, my own time, But future Gonna, well, the previous Gonna tried to delve into the works of fine art and printing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like pushing back from that. But with the future as well, I'm trying to be less corporate, less calculated, but more of a creative. I'm really learning how to be a creative again. Yeah, so with that, creatively, I would be lying to you if I say I can see what's next. As a businessman, I could tell you what's next, but since I'm stepping away from predictions and numbers and projections,
we are leaving it up to...
We're leaving it up to the winds and the elements and all of that stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, expect a smiley than a stressed one crunching numbers.
That's beautiful. So I always close off with the same question, which is, how would you want to be remembered? Right? Yeah, not easy.
I'd like to be remembered by my surname.
Yeah.
As much as I push my brand Gonna Elvis, I'd like to be remembered by my surname. So yeah,
Yes.
with future endeavors, I'm really just trying to rebrand from Gonna Elvis into Monga Khotla.
Into
So
you.
I think that's what I would like to be remembered by or as. So by the time when we get there, whatever that I'll be doing under that name, that's what I'd like to be remembered for.
That's beautiful. I think this brings us to the end of our conversation. Snap, snap. Thank you so much for sharing.
Gents, the ladies do it like this, right?
Clacky.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So far, it's
Oh, kilo never. Okay, I can't. But thank you for sharing so vulnerable and for indulging us in this conversation.
I enjoy the conversation.
Thank you. So this has been the First Column podcast. Where can we find you? Online.
Just Google me.
Google me, at me, cite me.
Gonna Elvis. Nah, but with Google you can you get everything quicker. Just Google Gonna Elvis. You get your Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, emails, and everything. Yeah.
SEO. Don't play.
Perfect. Now you know why I'm optimizing right now.
This has been the First Column podcast. If you'd like to check out some of our guests and their work, check out Gonna Elvis right there on your Google. We've been shot by Candy Media. If you'd like to reach out for any collaborations, you can email melodimediabw@gmail.com. Please stay tuned, like, subscribe, share, hashtag, do all the things, all the internet things, and look out for the next conversation. Ciao.